The dominance continues for Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team here at Lowe's and in the chase. Another win here makes it 6 for the team overall and 3 wins in 5 chase races. It was a battle for a moment with his teammate Jeff Gordon, but with about 10 laps to go, Jimmy Johnson checked out. And on this cool Charlotte night, Jimmy Johnson and his team was red hot as race chase number 5 is in the history books. We now have Jimmy Johnson once again in a place where he's very familiar, and that is Victory Lane at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Hello everyone and welcome to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed. I'm John Roberts alongside of Larry Mack, Kenny Wallace. It is cold out here tonight, but I don't think that's going to bother anybody behind us as Jimmy Johnson and his teammates are simply red hot.
Yeah, and I mean, I've talked to Chad Knaus a lot, and he's always wanted to have a weekend where he won everything, where he won every practice session, sat on the pole, and won the race. And by gosh, they did it.
They've done it, and it couldn't have been a better time.
Speedway.
Couldn't have been a better time. Kenny Wallace right now, his chase lead is huge.
And to me, I keep saying, I've been noticing this here late this year, is that we might be noticing one of the greatest drivers in this era. Race fans, he's well on his way to 4 championships in a row. Never been done in the history of NASCAR. I'm not saying he's a shoo-in right now, but my gosh, what a night for him.
But what this group, what they do, they did it tonight at their best. They got off a little bit early in the race. You know, they fell back, they were getting past, and they never panic. They just stick to a game plan, and that's one reason they're so successful, and they go to this place a lot.
And as we watch them celebrate in Victory Lane, when they get back to the shop on Monday, they're going to say, let's look at the points, Larry. And one thing they're going to say is, where's Denny Hamlin? Where'd he finish? 42nd. Well, where's Juan Pablo? Where'd he finish? 35th. Wow, did these points races get jumbled up, and we'll take a look at that later on in the show.
Yeah, we thought Talladega was going to do it, but Lowe's Motor Speedway did it here tonight. A lot of guys in the chase that had good race cars had problems.
It was a very strange night under the lights. Let's take a look at the points and how they run right now, and you will see that Jimmy Johnson's lead is now 9 points.
Somebody is playing all over it.
Now, who's putting Kurt in the red yet? Are we doing that?
Well, what we're doing here on Victory Lane is us three, John Roberts, Larry McReynolds, and myself, say, which spot is one full race out? So see, Kurt Busch, he's one full race
yeah,
out.
161 points is the most points you can make or make up or lose in one race. And there you sit. You've got 4 guys that are only within one race, or 3 guys within one race of our points leader.
And a tough break for the guy who had top 5s in the first 4 races. Now in race number 5, a dismal night for Juan Pablo Montoya pretty much from the start, and he moves down 3 positions. Let's now take a quick look at the highlights tonight in the Bank of America 500 here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. We see Jimmy Johnson once again from the pole as he leads the pack to the green flag, but he would not lead lap number 1. That honor would go to teammate Mark Martin. But you know how the 48 team always talks about maximum points? Well, they got maximum points tonight because they had trouble for some other chasers. Watch Juan Pablo Montoya. This is very non-typical for Juan Pablo to have this kind of trouble, especially in the chase as he goes for a loop at the entrance to pit road, does not come down the pit road, goes back out. Denny Hamlin, engine trouble with the valve, goes behind the wall. His night was done, and Denny Hamlin ended up finishing way back in the pack in position number 40. Here goes Casey Kane, one of the chasers who has had problems so far, but has won on this racetrack 3 times before as he passes Matt Kenseth for the lead and takes it away to lead a couple laps and gain a couple very valuable bonus points. Then another bad break. It's been 2 weeks in a row that we've seen the number 16 of Greg Biffle go sliding through the infield. This time, you know, for all intents and purposes, wasn't that bad. Could have been a lot worse on a restart. Now, Jimmy Johnson goes by teammate Jeff Gordon and then never looks back. After the restart, it looked like Jeff Gordon was going to be able to stay up there and battle Jimmy Johnson for a while. It was not to be tonight. This is Jimmy Johnson's personal playground over the last couple of years, and it happened again tonight. His 6th win at this racetrack, his 3rd win in this fall event. And yeah, pump the fist, race fans. You got this one looking really good right now for Jimmy Johnson as he goes for an unprecedented 4th championship in a row. A lot of other guys are chasing Jimmy Johnson. Right now, Jimmy Johnson is chasing history, and a stop at Lowe's Motor Speedway couldn't have been better for this number 48 team. When we come back, we'll talk to Jimmy, and we'll talk to some of the other guys who figured into this race. We'll also take a look at the championship points.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by Travelodge. Recreate, hibernate. Brought to you in part by the Ford F-150. It's not just a pickup truck, it's a Ford F-150. And by NASCAR Banking, only from Bank of America. Your debit card, your credit card, your driver. Learn more at a Bank of America Banking Center.
Well, they call this race the NASCAR Banking 500. What you can pretty much bank on is the fact that Jimmie Johnson is going to run well at Lowe's Motor Speedway. It's been one of his best tracks over the years, and he came in with the only two-time winner in this chase, and now he has made it 3. As we'll tell you more about that young lady in victory lane in just a moment, but right now we're going to take a look at the highlights of the first half of the race, and we're going to start off with none other than Jimmie Johnson on the pole. And Larry Mack, you said it just a moment ago, this was an absolutely dominating weekend for crew chief Chad Knaus, Jimmie Johnson, the rest of the 48 team.
But I'm going to tell you what, that 5 car on the outside of the front row, he wanted those 5 bonus points early because his teammate had outscored him by 15 bonus points in the 4 chase races, and he got them too.
So it wasn't the best of the night for all of the chasers. It was a really good night for the guys you saw up front. But here comes Sam Hornish in the number 77.
And Sam Hornish, he found out what the edge was early. I mean, he was digging hard, too loose, too early, and does he get lucky? Everybody misses him.
So Jimmie Johnson does get away from the pack with Denny Hamlin and Chase. That is about a good 2-3 second lead for Jimmie Johnson, as Clean Air did him very well.
But we've been flirting with a little bit of rain, and the 3rd caution on lap 35 was just for a light sprinkle. And this is kind of what changed the early part of the race, because all the leaders came to pit road at lap 37. You can see there, it just barely had ever so slight.
High pressure, low pressure, front, back.
It's a small sail.
But I don't understand why it wasn't snow. It's almost 39 degrees out here right now.
It feels a lot colder than that right now. The 17 of Matt Kenson has kind of been the party pooper for the Chasers so far this year. He's been threatening to win one of these.
Well, on that caution for rain, they dove in there and got 2 tires only, and it looked like no matter what, if you were out front, it loved that clean air.
And Matt the Brat loves 2 tires. This team has made that famous over the last 5 or 10 years. And look at the whole Jimmie Johnson. Now, Jimmie runs a real free race car, and when he doesn't have that air to lean on, of course, Matt on the outside makes Jimmie loose, and it's hard for Jimmie to get by Matt. Look at this great battle.
We saw so much side-by-side racing here tonight, not just at the end of the race, but early in the race. To me, this may have been the one car that could have done something with that 48 car. Denny Hamlin, I watched him in practice yesterday, and he was awfully good.
And I like that move that Jimmie Johnson made. Jimmie Johnson learned that from Mark the Kid Martin. Look, we're running for a championship here. We're 50 laps into this race. You go ahead and go, 11.
Now, this was Kyle Busch. He was running 5th. This was on lap 119. His car had just gotten looser and looser and looser, and finally coming off turn 4. Good news is, didn't hit anything.
Don't give up on the number 18. He will be back.
And one thing I'd like to point out is just how you think the car looks good on TV. All of you short track racers out there throughout the United States, oh, he looks fine. You feel it in your rear end, drivers, and all of a sudden, whoop, you spin out.
But Steve Letarte, he watched what the 17 car did early. He brought that 24 car to pit road on that caution, and he went with 2 tires, and that 24 car was gone out there in clean air right here on this run.
2 second-place finishes in a row for Jeff Gordon. He gained a lot of points over the last couple of races. He was hoping to cash in this one as well, as Jeff Gordon spent a lot of time out front. And again, the clean air did him very well.
Not another good night for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Actually, right there as he was leaving pit road, this was on that caution, the 4th caution. Transmission problems, had to go to the garage area.
Tough break once again for the number 88, but take a look at this little traffic jam going on here on the restart.
And this is where the night went bad for Juan Pablo Montoya. Look at his right rear quarter panel. These race cars are very aerodynamically sensitive, meaning that when he lost that quarter panel, his night was all but over. And here goes Mark Martin as Juan Pablo, very loose because he has nothing to lean on with that right rear quarter panel.
And it didn't take long for that leader, Jeff Gordon, that 24 car. This just goes to show you how much aerodynamics means at this mile-and-a-half racetrack. He put him a lap down in about 20-something laps.
So those were 2 of your top points contenders, Mark Martin and Juan Pablo Montoya, in trouble on a restart. And here goes Juan Pablo for a spin. I mean, the car was just all over the place. This was inevitable.
They needed a caution so bad, and they were the caution.
So they got it, took out the commitment cone, and then it was a little bit strange as to what happened here.
Watch
as,
this catch.
This
Watch this catch.
Watch that. Remember the drill.
Catch of the
You
night.
know what? That's a big old drill.
The
That
handle.
was slick, though, man. That was a great catch. All right, so that was one of the, I guess one of the only highlights for the number 42 team was the catch by the pit crew member, because that team had a lot of trouble tonight, and as they came in as the only team top 5 in every race, they didn't leave here that way.
But what they have to leave here with is the fact, until that happened on that restart, they had another top 5 race car, just like they've had for the last 4 races. It just wasn't meant to be tonight.
And I think one thing that Juan Pablo's team did is they pointed out to all of us, you know, every once in a while you'll go to Martinsville and you'll knock a fender in and you're okay. On these racetracks, they're running 200 mile an hour, getting into turn 1 here at Lowe's. The quarter panel, it's just hard to believe that you take the quarter panel, you kind of bang it up a little bit, and it looks like the man never drove a race car in his life.
Yeah, when Montoya spins one out, you know she's loose.
Yeah, so that was the first half of the race. The conditions were absolutely perfect for a fast finish, and we'll have that for you when we come back to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed, coming to you from the Lowe's Motor Speedway in Charlotte. Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed, coming to you from the Lowe's Motor Speedway. And once again, the Lowe's car is the one celebrating in Victory Lane after a long night of racing. Now, when we left you, it looked like it was going to be another one of those Jimmy Johnson kind of nights here at Lowe's. But the other part of the equation was the fact that many of the other chasers that were up there with Jimmy in the points were going to have a tough night. When we talk about that, you got to talk about Denny Hamlin, who as of right now looks like he's going to take the lead away from the two Hendrick Motorsports teammates, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, that car started deep in the field, but it did not take him long to make his presence known.
And a lot of cars, you know, they said the track was high on grip, but it just didn't happen everywhere. As the David Stremming, the number 12, he gets up and hits the wall.
You know, Denny's not, Stremming is not done yet. He recovers, but we'll show later on that he still has a tough night, but he was inside the top 15 with about 15 laps to go.
Now, this puts a whole new meaning to losing a quarter panel right here. They replaced that quarter panel, as we saw him earlier, about 20 laps later, even with putting it on with a screw gun. That just goes to show you how much air is back there on that right rear.
So there was no real question as to whose car that came off of.
No hiding it.
Now, is this good advertising? I mean, will they charge Target more money for that?
Maybe, but no more money being charged here by FedEx as Denny Hamlin. The team goes underneath the hood, and you can read the lips on the one crew member. He turns around and says, look, we got trouble, and it is a valve.
And listen, you are listening right, fans. That is the motor.
Sounds like a motorcycle, one of the little motorcycles you rode when you were a kid.
That is what you're calling dropping a valve.
Well, the speeds were so high here and making so much power with this cool air, I'm surprised we didn't have more engine problems.
Absolutely.
So this is the battle for second between the 9 and the 48 as Matt Kenseth goes out and leads. He's kind of been the party pooper for the chasers right now. Sometimes we've seen him as the highest non-chaser so far in this chase.
But that 9 car was so strong on the high side. It looks like he has 30 more horsepower out there, but he gets such a good run up high, he keeps that thing wound up.
Now, see, if we're at Eldora on a dirt track, that's called riding high, not afraid to die. Can he do it? Jack Hewitt. Woo.
Well, actually, he's Casey Kane, and this is one of his best racetracks.
This is
a
something we've
three-time
not
winner
seen a lot. Mark Martin in that 5 car getting lapped. Of course, he had some issues because he was the one that got into the back of the 40
What did you
car.
say? Say that again. Who's getting lapped?
The 5 car of Mark Martin.
That's unheard of.
Doesn't happen too much, especially not this season, but it wasn't about to be Mark Martin's night because, of course, he was involved in that little freakish with Juan Pablo, and the 13 car of Max Pappas, well, as they like to say, Larry, done blowed up.
Yeah, he almost made it to the end. This was on lap 291, another Toyota engine that had an issue tonight.
So as we see smoke coming off the number 13 of Max Pappas, watch as Jimmy Johnson just barely makes it out ahead of Casey Kane. And earlier this week, Chad Knaus told us that the best thing about sitting on the pole here is that first pit stall.
There's no question. And then here's another engine issue. Of course, this just was a bad night that went worse for Carl Edwards in that 99 car.
Now you can go 4 wide, or at least you can try to go 4 wide here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Watch Tony Stewart dive to the inside. They go 4 wide for a moment, and I guess the biff there is the meat and the sandwich.
But they're not done. Watch this. Here we go. The Stremming off the wall, 16 into the 39 of Newman. And this, like you said, this is the second week in a row. I think we've seen this last week at California.
Yeah, it's a bad movie being played over again for the number 16 team who had been gaining some points. We take another look at it there, and I guess we could say Larry 4 wide worked, but 3 wide didn't.
Yeah, 3 wide will not work on the exit of turn 4. It's like running into a funnel.
So now the 48 goes to the lead once again, and it was going to be hard to chase him down, but you see his teammate Jeff Gordon on the high side, and this was one of the parts of the race that Jeff looked really good.
But just watch how hard the 48 works for the lead. Watch how loose it gets loose. Race fans, that is near disaster right there. I'm telling you, he's not even sideways. He has to let off the gas a little bit. He continues this for the next couple of laps.
Yeah, if a fan gets that loose at 55 miles an hour on the interstate, you're in trouble, but that was at about 170 miles per hour.
And right here, Larry, the 48 of Jimmie Johnson, his rear tires heat up and they start gripping. Now he's ready to roll.
That's the thing. That race team adapts and Jimmie Johnson adapts.
So Jimmie Johnson goes on the low side, takes the lead away from Jeff Gordon, checked out, and never looked back. By a huge margin, Jimmie Johnson wins again at Lowe's Motor Speedway, and that makes the 6th time in his career he's been tearing up Bruton's infield. And I guess you get to do that if you win, as the favorite beverage is sprayed all around, fist pumps all around for the number 48 team. Let's take a look at how everybody finished up, and you see only 4 chasers in the top 10, although this has been 22 races in a row where a chase driver has won a chase race. We haven't seen that few chase drivers in the top 10.
I'd like to point out that it's good news for Jack Roush to see Matt the Brat up there close to winning this race.
And good news for Richard Childress. How about 2 cars in the top 7 there? That's almost 2 weeks in a row they've had multiple cars up near the top 10.
And look at this. I mean, these are great race car drivers. Brad Keselowski finishing 12th, looking like a champion. And what about Mark the Kid, Mark?
Yep, definitely a rough night for him. The car wasn't exactly what he needed, and they just never overcome that problem that they had after that restart.
On back in the field we go. Elliott Sadler in the number 19, sporting the pink colors this weekend in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 26, Paul Menard and Yates Ford in the 27th spot.
I'd like to give a that aboard to Mike Bliss finishing 24th.
Man, that finished 2nd last night in the Nationwide.
Darn right. Great weekend.
Here are the chasers that had trouble. Take a look at Juan Pablo Montoya. Came in as one of the most consistent drivers throughout this chase, but didn't leave that way.
Nobody will be more glad to get this 2009 season over than Brian Vickers in that 83 group.
Number 88 car, 38th position. Another tough night for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Denny Hamlin with the valve problem, P42.
Yesterday, Dale Earnhardt Jr. said, race fans, I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know what else to do.
Well, I hope there's some more rope left there, because this was a tough night for Dale Jr., but they will bounce back. You can't keep a good team down for long. Mark Martin is now 90 points behind Jimmie Johnson.
And we've got 2 very interesting races coming up. We go to the smallest track that we race on next week at Martinsville. Oh, by the way, a place that Jimmie Johnson is on. And then, of course, we go to Talladega Super Speedway in 2 weeks.
It is time now for our Valvoline guaranteeing the win portion of the program, and nobody did it quite like Jimmie Johnson towards the end of the race as he had teammate Jeff Gordon on the high side. Watch how loose Jimmie Johnson gets. He knew to back it off. Jeff Gordon got ahead of him, but then Jimmie just took it right back. Yeah, that's right. Get some. These guys are happy because they have won once again, and it couldn't be at a better time. Jimmie Johnson's going to put on one more hat and come over and join us after the break. Congratulations to Jimmie Johnson from NASCAR Banking, only from Bank of America, on his 3rd chase win and 6th overall here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. The domination continues, and that's okay. Go ahead and burn out those tires, Jimmy. They'll make more.
That's a cool burnout.
Yeah, that was a really good burnout. Looked really good, but you also look pretty good crossing the start-finish line at the end. What an amazing victory for your team. But, quite frankly, Jimmy, we're all out of questions to ask you. We see you so much in Victory Lane. Is there anything you wanted to ask us?
No, first of all, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Good.
I didn't think that we were going to end up winning the race tonight. I thought it was the 9 cars race. And then some stuff happened at the end with the restarts. We got some tires and a good adjustment, and off we went. So I just can't believe it. I'm as tripped out on this whole thing as you guys.
Jimmy, one thing that, and this was, I think, was late in the race. This was racing with your teammate, and I think you decided to just take a step back for a second here.
I had to. I about threw it away right there, so I figured I should kind of chill out. I was hoping that Jeff would get tight because it kind of looked that way from the runs before. And I just fell in behind him, tried to, protect where I was at with the 9 car and the 17 right there. And then I felt like I could run around the top, and I put together 2 good corners. And Jeff then moved up, and then I went down into 1 and 2 and let off early and jumped in the gas earlier than I have all night long, just hoping I could run through the center faster than he would and kind of do a slide job on him, and it worked out.
Jimmy, early and halfway through the race, I seen you make some championship moves. You look in your mirror, you see Denny Hamlin coming, you pull over. Then later on, you see the 9 car, Casey Kane coming, you pull over. What's going through your mind at that point in the race to pull over and let them go?
You know, there's just different guys on the track that you race with. You know, when it comes down to the last pit stop or 2, nobody's going to give you a lane and let you go. But there are other guys that you work with week in and week out. And Denny's that way, the 9 car's that way, the 17 car's that way. And it helps when you're running the top 3 or 4. If you're 15th, nobody's going to give you that break. But in the top 5, guys kind of work with you.
Hey, Jimmy, we know in the history of racing, no one's ever gotten a check for hot laps in practice. You do get a slight check for starting on the pole and you get the first pit box. But when you guys come to a racetrack and are that dominant from start to finish, it's got to help you mentally.
It does. You know, it's nice that we didn't let it slip through our fingers. And you know, through really, I mean, a large part of the race, the middle of the race, we weren't the best car. So I'm just happy that we kept our eyes on what we needed to do. Stay focused and made the right adjustments and was good at the end. So this team never ceases to amaze me, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. And I'm happy to drive for Hendrick Motorsports, have that great power under the hood and those great race cars.
Now, I'm sorry that I have to be the first one to tell you that you have a nice points lead now. Are you aware of that? 90 points already.
I thought it would be good, so. I saw the 42 have troubles, and then I didn't see the 5 much all night.
And are you worried now that you're going to go to your very best track next week with this point lead at Martinsville? You shall win again, and then it's just going to get better and better from here out.
I would love for it to go that way. I'm not sure it will. That track is really good for the 11, for the 24, for the 14. So we'll have our hands full, but I love the position we're in, and we'll just see. I mean, it would be awesome from my standpoint to go there and do it again, but just because we run well this week and last week, it does not mean that we're going to go to Martinsville and run well. It's such a different racetrack and a whole different race weekend.
You know, Jimmy, you mentioned you were off just a little bit in the middle of the race, and actually it was a little before halfway. Something that didn't happen often tonight. You got passed a couple of times.
What?
Was our buddy Chad starting to question? Were you giving him 100% there for a minute? Did he tell you needed to step it up a little bit?
We know each other so well. I could tell in his voice that, you know, first he's patient, and then things weren't really working out. And then his voice changed, and he got a little desperate. And I asked him, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, go faster. And I said, look, if you don't stop, I'm going to pull down pit road and strangle you for the hell of it.
I think your exact word was, ain't happening right now.
Yeah, I guess after that, I threatened to come down pit road and strangle him, and it took probably 3 or 4 pit stops for him to come back around and sound right on the radio again.
You know, you guys do have such a special relationship, Jimmy, and I guess the biggest thing that impresses me about you guys is you never really panic. No matter when things are going bad, it just seems like you almost just stick to that game plan and put blinders on.
We try to. You know, there are times I was panicking tonight. I know that Chad was as well because the car wasn't where it needed to be. But I think we've surrounded ourselves with people we trust and believe in. And when we're in the heat of the moment, we trust each other and we can make good decisions. We're certainly panicked. There's certainly times that happen a lot that are like that. But we seem to make the right decisions at the right times. And I don't know why we do or how we do it, but I really have to give the credit to the people that we surround ourselves with.
Did you finally meet your right rear tire changer?
That was last week.
I did again.
So you brought him here again.
He's 2 for 2.
They got to get him a suit, though, with his name on the back.
Right.
Jimmy, congratulations. Another great job.
Yes.
Keep up the good work. That's 3 wins in the chase so far for Jimmy Johnson out of 5 races. It's going to be hard to stop this team. And you know what? Jimmy had a special trophy presenter, and Kenny Wallace is going to tell us a little bit more about that.
There she is, Jessica Garman. She had a Bank of America credit card. She took her points that she won with her credit card, and she earned the right to hand Jimmy Johnson the trophy tonight. Congratulations, Jessica.
And you can put it in the bank that Jimmy Johnson's going to run good here. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed. It should come as no surprise to anybody that at Lowe's Motor Speedway, the Lowe's number 48 car is in Victory Lane, this time after race number 5 in the chase. Car owner Rick Hendrick joins us now. And Rick, we messed up before. It's not the first time, not going to be the last. But we're supposed to give Jimmy his ring.
Yeah.
And we forgot about it, but we figure he's got 5 of them. maybe he'd either share this one with you or maybe you could give it to him for us.
Thank you. I'll do that.
That's a nice looking piece.
He's running out of fingers to put them on.
That is a beautiful ring.
Isn't it, though?
That's a beautiful ring.
And, Rick, when you look out there, I know you have so many years of experience in this, but every race and every year, it must still be somewhat of a difficult situation for you to watch a guy like Jeff Gordon on the high side of the racetrack and a guy like Jimmy on the low side, both in your cars.
That is probably the neatest thing and the worst thing that happen all at the same time. You're thankful that you're up there and they're racing each other, but man, I know Larry remembers Martinsville when we were 1-2 and only 4 cars on the lead lap and took each other out. And all of the working together, if something like that happens, man, it can tear up the team. So I hold my breath till one gets in front, but sometimes I come on the radio and say, guys, just think about the big picture. I don't care what race it is.
But, Rick, this is the second week in a row. In fact, there were 3 of them up there in the closing laps at California last week.
Yeah. It's nerve-wracking, I'll tell you. And you know, I've said all along, I thought that the double file restarts could decide the chase. And when you have those kind of situations at the end of the race and everybody's kind of gouging for a spot, man, anything can happen. And you've seen it happen every week. So, but it was a good race there at the end. And boy, Jeff drove the wheels off that car. You know, 2 tires out there that long. So. But we're just thankful they're all in one piece.
So, Rick, we're going to have a little fun now. On Monday, if we all come down to Rick Hendrick Chevrolet, I mean, what kind of victory sale are we going to have? Are we going to get a percentage off of vehicles?
Is Kenny Spencer or what?
I mean, I'm sorry, Kenny. They win all the time here, man. This is nothing special.
Our producer reminded us that Spence is not on the set tonight. And that
they told me I had to ask you for a trip or something.
Yeah, can we get a free Suburban? No, really, I mean, you know, last week you got, 1, 2, 3, as we've seen on the restart in California. You come here this week and you find yourself 1, 2 again. I mean, we've seen this in the past, but you're truly living a dream the last month.
Well, you know what? You better enjoy it while you can. I look at the way that Denny Hamlin's been running. And, you know, he had a mechanical problem tonight. He had that mishap out in California. And you see the Rouse cars running better. So you don't get too comfortable. We have to fight hard. Everybody's running better. Richard Childress's cars are running good. Everybody's, picking up the pace. And you just got to work hard every week so you don't get comfortable.
I'd like to know something. Did you create your leadership skills on your own, or did you learn them from your father? I mean, you're really there and you're on it all the time.
Well, my mom and my dad, I know my mom's watching, and she'll tell me that, if we beat the 5 car, she gives me a hard time because she's the owner, But I think growing up on a farm in a rural community and working together, and I started, just the dealerships and the racing with just a few people, and, you got to work together. You got to be a team, and you got to share, and no good organization will be tore down from the outside. It'll start from the inside.
I believe that.
I'm just very fortunate to have a lot of great folks that have been with me a long time that get it done.
Now, when we talked to Chad last week after that race, we asked him about racing your teammates for a championship, and he said he would almost rather have it that way because there becomes a little internal but very friendly rivalry.
Oh yeah, they want to beat each other, and I'm impressed too that when you're in this kind of situation, that Chad feels like he can call Alan Gustafson at night and get his notes because he was better in the last practice or vice versa. And when you got guys that when they figure that out, hey, we're stronger together. If it comes down to 2 or 3 of us, hey, then we've accomplished a lot. That's what we set out to do in the beginning of the year. So I just can't say enough about our guys and how they work together. And it's proof positive that it works. And so, we just got to keep doing what got us here. Don't change anything. And I'm really proud of them for doing that.
Well, if you wanted a little internal friendly rivalry, I don't know if you've seen the points, but I think you've got it because right now your 3 cars are at the top of the heap, 135 points, and then your old buddy Tony Stewart is the only other car that is within 1 race with 5 to go of the 48 car.
What do you say about that, Rick?
Well,
You wanted a friendly internal rivalry, I believe you have it.
You got the top 4 covered.
Talladega's coming up. You know.
This place here about took a toll on a bunch of them
Oh
tonight.
yeah, you know, so much can happen. But there again, really proud of Tony and what he's been able to accomplish with the Stuart Haas program, Darian and Tony Gibson and that crowd. I mean, I was telling you guys, I bet he would win a race, and everybody looked at me in Daytona and said, "Man, it's a startup team." I said, well, "Tony Stewart will win the race. He'll be in a chase." And look at where he is. I mean, you know, he's there, and he's done a great job. I'm living a dream, so I hope it lasts.
There's no question that 14 team proves our sport is all about people.
It is all about people, and Larry, you know this too. We've done these deals before, and you put people together, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that you go out and you bring this many people that have never worked together before, and they come out clicking like that. And I think you have to give Tony a tremendous amount of credit, because Bobby Hutchins is a really good guy, and you know, all of the guys that are there, but somebody's got to lay the program out and be there every day rolling up their sleeves. And Tony Stewart, I mean, he's a racer, and he's got his heart and soul in this thing. And I think of all of my years of racing, it's been one of the most impressive things that I've seen, what he's been able to do.
I have to agree with you there, Rick, and congratulations once again on a great night tonight for all of Hendrick Motorsports. And this is win number 16 for Hendrick Motorsports at this Lowe's Motor Speedway. Somewhat of a home track for everybody, but even more for Hendrick as they are headquartered right down the road. We'll be back with much more in just a moment. What a classic battle we saw tonight on the racetrack between the number 48 of Jimmy Johnson and his teammate Jeff Gordon, who coming into tonight were tied for active drivers with wins here at this racetrack. They each had 5 coming in, but only one was going to win tonight. It was Jimmy Johnson, but nonetheless, Jeff Gordon had a great night. Let's go to Bob Dillner.
I thought just for a moment that Jeff Gordon might have his teammate Jimmy Johnson there on that restart, and I know you probably thought that too.
Well, it was fun to race with him, and we raced him really hard. I got a great restart, but I knew I had 2 tires against his 4. I thought maybe clean air might get my car to turn a little bit better. I was really tight on that last run, and it just wasn't enough. And, you know, I got in front of him and drove down in there. I got through 1 and 2 good, and I got to 3 and 4, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. And so, you know, we had to give up that spot, and you know, just hope that we didn't fade too much. We come home 4th. It was a great night for us. Led laps, 4 tires. I think we can win this race and race with those guys. But we faded there towards, you know, the 3/4 mark of the race, and we couldn't gain back those spots. When we got the lead and we were able to maintain the lead, man, we were awesome. But it was a good night for us. We gained on everybody else but the 48. Really excited about having Megatron and Transformers on board our DuPont Chevrolet tonight.
Let's talk about that. You gained 2 spots in the standings, now 3rd, but like you said, you lose to the guy that's in victory lane there. Is it one of those nights where you just got to kind of shake your head and go, geez, what can I do?
I think everybody's been doing that for 3 years, now almost 4. You know, if those guys can complete what they're doing right now, it's going to be extremely impressive. It's already been impressive with 3. And, you know, it's just something that, you know, you do shake your head at. But they're that good. They've been able to stay together. And Hendrick has been able to stay on top of, you know, our program to be that competitive. There's still a lot of racing left to go, though. You know, a lot can happen. And that's all I'm focused on is what we can do every weekend with our team. I mean, what a fight by Steve Letarte and this entire team. They were awesome in the pits. Steve made every call perfect tonight. You know, the time we took 2 tires the first time was what got us back in this race or into the race, and the 2 tire stop there at the end got us a top 5.
And the next 2 weekends, the biggest wild cards of all, Martinsville and Talladega.
As we take a look at crew chief Steve Letarte, you got to wonder about Jeff Gordon. He's done everything right throughout his career. You know, he always drove the best. He always put together the best teams. And now all of a sudden he has to go out and pick a race car driver to join his team. Well, he picked Jimmy Johnson. He did that right too. Now Jimmy's just beating everybody.
And you know, we bring to light right now, race fans, this era. And you know, for a while it was Jeff Gordon. You know, and for 3 championships, then a 4th championship. He's the man. Then all of a sudden, within the same garage, Hendrick Motorsports, we create this next superstar. And right now, it's kind of fun, I think. Jeff Gordon finds himself with Jimmy Johnson, the man that he created. We've said it time and time again, Larry, that, let's not forget that Jeff Gordon picked Jimmy Johnson to drive that car.
Obviously, he has an eye for talent, there's no question. But back to what he was talking about, the 2 tires, that was not the wrong call because they only had 14 laps on their tires. Their worst enemy was 3 cautions in the closing stages of that race, with Carl Edwards blowing up, Max Pappas blowing up, and Biffle. I don't think if they didn't have all those cautions, though, they may have made those 2 tires work.
Absolutely, and the cycles too. What happens is that you go green flag and then the tires cool down. You go green flag, the tires cool down. And those are what we call cycles. So every time you do that with 2 tires, it's not your friend.
So if tonight is an indication of things to come, we are going to a racetrack where we have seen classic battles between Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon before, but also next Saturday on Speed, Matt Crafton will look to gain more ground on points leader Ron Hornaday. Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series live from Martinsville, October 24th at 12:30 Eastern. NASCAR on Speed. Be there. Catch This Week in NASCAR on Monday night. The panel will debate some of the sport's hottest topics, and that panel, of course, includes Mr. Simon, Jimmy Spencer. Now we're going on to smaller restrictor plates at Talladega. The right move, or is Jimmy Johnson's recent success too much, or good or bad for the sport? Opinions will be flowing Monday on This Week in NASCAR at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed. Now, one of the topics of discussion on that show and throughout the week will be the performance of Mark Martin's number 5 team tonight. Not what they were looking for, but is he still in the championship hunt? Yes, but he's 90 points back of his teammate. Let's go back to Bob Dillner.
Take a look at the front of the car of Mark Martin's machine, and it was an eventful night. Let me tell you something, all sorts of stuff happening, but you salvaged here tonight, Mark.
Yeah, I don't think that really affected us that much. They were some brake checking on the restart pretty bad, especially if you were far back, and we got back in the, I guess we were just a little off. The car started off okay, but it seemed like it started to slip through our fingers. And then once you got back in the pack, man, it was really tough. This race team did a great job. Fought back and fought hard, and we got a decent finish out of it. We got everything we could. These guys gave their whole heart, and I did too. And it was okay. We'll go to them and go after them next week.
I tell you what, looking at the last couple laps, Mark, hard-fought battle. You, Harvick, Biffle, everybody. I mean, everybody's fighting for everything that they can get out there.
It's tough racing, I'll tell you that much. And they're all great. You're talking about Greg Biffle and Kevin Harvick, and, I'm racing these guys for 15th spot or 18th spot. You know what I mean? So that's just, that's how it is. We could have been back there in 20th or 25th racing like crazy. The racing isn't only in the front.
All right, Mark Martin still second in points, but he loses some points to Jimmy Johnson, his teammate.
And Bob, it tells you how fragile this chase is, especially with a guy like Jimmy Johnson going out there and winning like he's doing right now. One little restart like that takes Juan Pablo Montoya and Mark Martin and puts him way behind the 8 ball.
But I really watched this race close, and I tend to agree with Mark just a little bit. That definitely may have hurt that race car, but I think even prior to that, they had gotten off. They jumped out there and led some laps early, but they started fading. I just don't think they ever got that 5 car exactly where they needed it, even without the front end damage. Front end damage didn't help anything, but I'm not sure it hurt it or devastated it as bad as it did the 42 car.
Yeah, and one thing I like to point out, and I never have been able to figure out how to talk about it to people, but look where Mark Martin is. Now, the reason this happened, because let's look at it, okay? He's back about 15th right now. I have never been able to talk to fans about, look, when you're running up front, and Larry, you're a winning crew chief, when you're running up front, hunky-dory, baby. It's beautiful. But Mark Martin said it best. I'm running hard for 15th against guys like Kevin Harvick. I mean, this is how tough this sport is. You're looking at great winning race car drivers, and Mark Martin said it best. He wanted to make his point that, I was running for 15th. I didn't want to be there, but look who I was surrounded with, such great race car drivers.
And they're going to have to roll those sleeves up now. I know they got 5 races to go, but they've got 90 points they're going to have to try to overcome. And I know we've all talked about Talladega. the restrictor plate races, they have not been good to Mark Martin over the last couple of years.
And it's one of those situations, once again, just like when we're trying to get in the chase, you have to hope for somebody in front of you to make a mistake for you to gain ground. That's how competitive the whole thing is. And when you dream, do you dream in speed? Introducing the Speed Dream Ride. You'll see new shows, old favorites, and have the chance to win an experience you never dreamed possible. The Speed Dream Ride is coming soon, presented by Castrol Edge. Find more at speeddreamride.com.
NASCAR Victory Lane is presented by Travelodge, Recreate, Hibernate. Brought to you in part by Wrangler, proud sponsor of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Wrangler, real, comfortable jeans. And by Orbitz. Visit Orbitz.com today and save.
Next weekend on Speed, NASCAR's championship chase heads to its tightest track, Martinsville, and nobody covers the paint trading action like Speed. Coverage begins Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern with NASCAR Live, NASCAR on Speed. As your colleague, we advise you to be there. And we are heading up to a racetrack right now that is, of course, the tightest on the circuit, but it's also one of the best for Jimmy Johnson and his teammate Jeff Gordon. So, guys, what do you think we're going to see once we get up there?
Well, there's no question. You go to Martinsville, Virginia, you're going to have to beat a Hendrick car. It may be the 24, it may be the 48, but to me, even though it's a 500-lap race, that race starts on Friday. You need to qualify good there. You need to start up front, and you need to get that good pit selection over there near the exit of pit road.
And one thing that we have been noticing over the last 2 years is, like, where can we go test to try to beat the Hendrick cars? Last week, some 20 cars down at Little Rockingham, a small track built to mirror Martinsville. A lot of cars down there over the last week trying to figure out how to beat those guys.
Now, to enhance our coverage of the chase here on Speed, we will continue a show we call the NASCAR Race Hub, because Speed headquarters is in the middle of the hub of NASCAR country. And this week, Bob Osborne will have the Crew Chiefs Corner. We'll have Dale Jr., Matt Crafton, David Gilliland, Jeff Gordon, and Richard Childress, along with the all-stars of Speed as well. As post-race breakdown continues, want to thank the folks at Lowe's Motor Speedway for helping us out. Let's look in the rearview mirror.